Hey, it's Laria. Housing early access for World of Warcraft starts December 2nd if you have pre ordered Midnight, which is the next World of Warcraft expansion. But if you're somebody like me who is interested in housing, you want to dive in, you want to explore, try new things, kind of test the system, but you're feeling a little overwhelmed about how to get started, I have some thoughts that I'd like to share with you to hopefully make things a little bit easier, to simplify the housing system in general, that will hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to dive into housing and get started with it. The first thing I want to share with you is about neighborhoods, because for me, picking a neighborhood and trying to decide, okay, do I pick a public neighborhood? Do I pick a guild neighborhood? Do I charter one, which is something you can do. It's very similar to, creating a charter for a guild. But anyway, there are a couple of different neighborhoods. And over the last couple of weeks, as we've gotten closer and closer to housing in WoW, I've been a little, I guess overwhelmed is the right word, because every time I think about it, I'm trying to think of, okay, well, which one do I choose? Do I pick a plot that's not near other people, other neighbors? And if it's a public neighborhood, are they going to be upset if I choose a plot next to them? I don't know. These thoughts go through my head, and I end up just overthinking things sometimes. And so while I know it's a fairly straightforward system, the thought that I want to share is that you can pick any plot that you want, pick any neighborhood that you want. If you want to go in day one when housing starts, or whenever you have a moment to start your house, you can start with a public neighborhood, because this leads into my next thought, which is about moving plots. When you choose a plot, you are not tied down to that plot. You are not required to keep your house at that plot. You can move it. And so to link that up to the neighborhood that you choose, you are not required to stay in the neighborhood you first choose, in the plot that you first choose. Actually, World of Warcraft makes it even easier by making housing free. Your first house for new players, it's free. And moving your house as well is also free, which is, I think, is pretty exciting, because that in itself kind of removes this hurdle, I guess, this hill that you have to, if you don't have a lot of gold, you don't have to worry about gold. But going back to what I was saying originally about neighborhoods and plots, I would just choose any neighborhood, any plot for now. If you're not sure what your guild is going to do, or maybe you're in between guilds, or you're waiting to find a really cool guild to join, or whatever the reasons might be. And then let's say you choose a neighborhood and the plot that you really like, because by the way, there are 50 plots, 50 plots. If the one that you want is taken, and you check the other neighborhoods, and if you end up choosing a plot, just please know that you can move your house eventually. It saves all of the items that you have in the house. It's not going to reset it or anything like that. So if you are feeling a little overwhelmed and not sure where to start with housing, or it's just feeling like this giant system and you're not projecting a little bit, right? These are all the thoughts that I've had. Just please know that it's much simpler than it might seem. So I've talked about neighborhoods, I've talked about choosing a plot, I've talked about how it is free to start your first house, especially if you're a new player, and then I even talked about how it's free to move your house. So don't worry about that either. If you end up not liking the plot, or whatever it might be, you can move your house. We talked about all of that, and I shared my thoughts about those. I also talked about how these things are free. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of gold, don't worry about that. Just go in, dive into the system, get started. It's meant to be a fun and social, or not social if you don't want to be social with your house. There are different plots. Some are more secluded than others. Some have very close neighbors. Some are pretty far away from the main hub, which is like where all the vendors are, people like that. So it can be social if you want it to, or it doesn't have to be. But there's one thought that I want to share that is not currently in the game, but something that I think might help people when it comes to housing. And as I was on beta, I was testing housing, I was trying to figure things out and learn how to do everything. I was a little surprised to see that Blizzard has not offered an option for very simple pre-decorated or pre-designed rooms that people can choose from. And the best example I can provide, I guess, for this is when you're looking at a blank Google Doc, right? If you're somebody who is, you're working, or you have to write something. I feel like for some people it's a lot harder to come up with, something from scratch when you're looking at a blank canvas or a blank slate. And that's kind of how I felt with my first house, the first room that I looked at. Now, I have a house in Final Fantasy XIV, and while that is a completely separate game, the housing is similar in that you basically walk into a blank canvas, and it is up to you to decide how you want it to look. But I guess for people who are brand new to housing, or even brand new to WoW, honestly, I thought that maybe this suggestion might help some people where, it doesn't have to be this elaborate design that's, pre-decorated, comes from World of Warcraft, from the game itself, where it's, you're in Khadgar's library or a wizard tower, whatever it might be. That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean a very simple room where it shows you a really cool place to put the fireplace. It shows you where to have a bench and where the chandelier might be, and maybe you have some bookcases, and it basically shows you the bones of the room, something to work with basically, so that you're not just looking at a blank canvas. So that I think is helpful for some people, not everybody. I think some people might just look at a blank canvas and be really excited about it. But it was just a thought that I had that I think it could help some people. But with that said, I know there are a ton of people in the community who are really excited about housing, and I've already seen videos and housing contests and things like that with people showing off their homes. So if you were looking for inspiration, I'm sure that we're going to start seeing more and more and more of that as time goes on, and as people get into their houses and have even more time to kind of experiment and see what they can do in their houses. So with that said, though, I hope all of these thoughts are helpful for you. All of this is coming off of a video that World of Warcraft posted very recently about housing. It's kind of like a housing 101 video. And a lot of that was what I had planned on talking about anyway. But approaching that video, I was trying to think of, okay, well, if somebody's new to housing or they haven't had as much time to experiment with it, I just wasn't sure if other people were feeling a little overwhelmed is the word that keeps popping into my head. But really, housing is meant to be fun, like I said. It's not tied to power. It is not meant to affect, your strength and your abilities, power, basically, in Mythic Plus, in raids and things like that. It's meant to be fun. And if it is a feature that you enjoy or think you will enjoy, that's great. If it's something that you're not sure that you'll enjoy, because I do imagine there will be quite a few players in WoW who will start their house, they'll put down some items, and then, probably just call it a day, which is totally fine. And then I think there are some people who might not know if they like it or not because they haven't had that experience yet. I mean, I mentioned Final Fantasy XIV earlier, and in that game, I was lucky enough to get my house because they have a lottery system, and there was a plot that 2 other people were going for. I was the 3rd person, and my name, my number, my lottery number just happened to be selected. That is not the case in WoW. So if you are interested in housing in World of Warcraft, it really is just as easy as logging in, going into the suggested content. There's a button that brings you right to the housing area. And then there's even a tutorial quest that will bring you in, and it teaches you all the different features. There is an advanced mode, there's a non-advanced mode. So while there are some options and tools and features and things like that that are available, and that will take some, getting used to and learning. This video is not a guide, by the way. It's not meant to teach you what every single button and every tool does. With all that said, though, there is a tutorial. So I hope that this video prepares you for World of Warcraft housing if you have not already started your house yet or have been thinking about it. So I hope this helps.